Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 183 of Mini Truckin' Magazine, March 2007. It's a dang good issue. There's a lot to talk about. If you're new, please consider subscribing. Share this video with the homies. This is Sean Reese's Wild Blazer. Nick Crouch does some of the hand-drawn artwork, and I believe this was kind of like Nick's farewell for the work that he was doing, I think is what Mike kind of mentions in this issue. John Jackson, the famed of Not Stock Photography, this is his first credited Mini Truckin' Magazine cover. The 7th cover with Billet Specialty Wheels. For those scoring at home, the 48th cover, or issue rather, with a Chevy. And by the way, lucky number 13, the 13th cover with a Blazer. Second most pages, 123. Of course, the advertisers are what drives that, so we'll see that here. And it also has a pull-out poster on one side, and then the other side has some license plates, and then the other side has the female, the license plates, and then the other side has the truck. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I know it's been a minute, so I've kind of reset, and I got a lot going on. This channel is going to really grow a lot, hopefully in 2025. If you're watching this near the time that I uploaded it, again, Happy New Year. So here, dragging through the famed Mike Alexander, he writes about the friendships, and he has some really good words right here. He says, just remember, when something's got you bummed out, pull out the photo album and look back at all of the awesome people and the good times you've shared. No matter how rough it gets or how busy we all get, we're here for each other. There you go. So if that's the New Year's message for you, a positive one, there you go. Okay, so you got Mini Truckin' News. This talks about the S10 Air Dancer. And you can see there it's pretty much thrashed. One thing to note, typically the table of contents is further up. I kind of noticed on this issue, it feels like the table of contents is probably the furthest it's ever been, on page 16, 17. Now, don't get me wrong, some of that is because of the advertiser, but it's odd. It almost seems like kind of a misprint that it has this here. The table of contents would typically come before this, if that makes sense. You can look across the top. You've got everything from Barry's, Severed, Georgia at the time, 4Runner, all the way over to Chump Change. So you got a lot going on there. And then we get a little bit of intel right here. Of course, this month's cover features Nick Crouch's Farewell by way of amazing hand-drawn artwork. So again, you can kind of see here, this would have been where it was shot, and you've got like the structure, the building in the back, and then they would have kind of did their magic to kind of piece all that together, which is super cool, right? That's another thing that Mike Alexander, I think, really did. He pushed the limits on working back with Nick, and it's ironic. I was texting Nick earlier today. I asked him a question. Hadn't talked to him in a while, and then sadly I saw that him and his dog had gotten attacked. I saw that on Instagram after I texted him. So, Nick, if you see this, man, again, hope all is well. Okay, so here you have Brandon Lanham's It Fell. So this 91 Toyota pickup. Extra cab. I think Mike calls them all extended cabs. I have to always remind them they're not called that. Power from a PC. So this is kind of talking about the tuning piece. A lot of good information here. Again, I love this tech article and what they continue to do, because you got a good mix of photos. The text is smaller under the captions, so that's super cool. Here you got Envy Frenzy, a club show does it again. This truck was always super cool. And there you go. There's one with the shaved front corner. Now, you guys chime in, right? Not hating on any mods or anyone's truck, but for whatever reason, I could just, maybe it's the sunken in headlights, maybe with a composite light, but I think you'd have to really cut the light up to make that work. But these S10s just, I don't know, it was weird when they shaved the corner lights. Just my opinion. Still rocking with it, though. Looks like Low Life, maybe not. Kind of look like Low Life Mikey. Check this out. Getting crazy. Now, remember, if you're new here, some of you find us through Google. You're looking for, your parents' truck or someone. We have every flip through in folders, so check it out. The Runner, a Barry badass 4Runner indeed. So this was Barry True Love. Yeah, TRU Love. Severed, Georgia. Now, here's the cool thing. Not only did Mark shoot this, the gentleman that shot it, Brandon Burrell shoots this, if I remember correctly, and it runs as like a nighttime feature in street trucks. This is a cool feature to me because, again, you don't typically see a layout like this. You've got the truck laid out almost like on a big paved area, and then they've got the title, and then you've got the feature down here. So something a little bit different. And again, just a very cool layout. We got so used to seeing the same layouts all the time. Now, I don't know where this one is. A lot of these 4Runners, it's hard for me to always remember the names. They always come up with a cool name that spun off of the Runner. And this thing was super cool. I don't recall seeing it in person. Barry always would build some super cool stuff. I think he built a crew cab Toyota. So, super cool. Always enjoyed that. I still love seeing all the 4Runners. Rest in peace, Ernie Macias. We saw one of his photos there with Mike Alexander, but here's the Weekend Warrior STK truck, stock truck edition. This is the truck that would go on to get rear-ended, unfortunately. But, anytime I see this and, and I see the homies working on it, it makes me think of the conversations I had with him. Ernie was just such a great guy, and I didn't even know him as well as many of you did. But if you've ever interacted with the big homie, he always kept it more than 100. Okay, if I remember correctly, Brandon Burrell shot this photo, I think. Now, if I'm wrong on that, someone chime in, because I remember, I thought Brandon had mentioned to me he had shot this, but the guy that owned this truck, his name was Thomas, and he lived like in the Tampa Bay area, and then he sold it to a guy that lived like about 15 minutes from me. This was kind of a real famous photo, I think, on the, the earlier days of the internet with our truck scene. But this is a club profile of Acrophobia. For those that do not know, Acrophobia started in Florida. Dave Schulman and Eddie started it. If I remember correctly, they were I think, founders. But this is, pretty cool to look back on. This is neat, too, to see kind of a spotlight of something like this, because it kind of reminds me of the old days. I wish I had a snapshot of some of the old websites, like Negative Camber. I used to go on the websites like every day at work. Any chance I had, we had like these little web computers, and I would just scan the websites, all the websites throughout the country. Here's Neckbreaker. This is Sean Reese's truck that I mentioned, 84 Blazer. Super cool John Jackson photos, and then, of course, Mike Alexander does the write-up. It looks like a true rolling shot. Now, if John sees this or anybody has any intel, I always like to know, like, where was this shot? Were you there that day? Were you riding in the support vehicle? Any intel that you have on any of these features, I always kind of add to my database. And really appreciate it. Kind of a wild engine bay, but I tell you, it's clean. It may not be everybody's favorite with, some of the loom and things like that, but regardless, man, it's cool. You can see it has hydros on it. So you've got the hydraulics, you've got the suicide door. These square Blazers have always been, I would say, a classic, in the mini truck world. Crazy. This was kind of in the mid-2000 era that I always refer to. Like, you'll sometimes see the inverted subs, but this was like a big thing in this era, especially with the OEMs doing the designs on the back, which was kind of crazy. Now, we saw on the cover, this is the pull-out poster, and it is the lady on the cover. And it mentions there that Kevin Aguilar had shot the photo, and you've got... Now, this, I don't think I've ever taken this out of any of my issues. I do not remember. But this was cool because they also tailored in a bunch of vanity license plates. So I'm not going to be able to show you this at this moment. I may come back eventually. Once I get through all these issues, I'll come back and do a bunch of other intel. Now, ironically, this is a different photo than what we saw on the cover. And you can see all of the vanity plates. You can see a lot in this photo, rather. Pretty cool. And, of course, that's upside down because of the way this had to work. Again, super cool truck. You know, a little bit of old school, a little bit of new school, a little bit of mid school. Awesome truck. Awesome build. How to place at a show. So this is kind of a cool article. We didn't see a lot of this stuff until... you know, this era of the magazine. You know, Ernie Macias, rest in peace. This is, you're going to see the first issue that not only does he write this and do the photography here, but he also does his first write-up in this issue. It talks about undercarriage, body mods, exterior, so that was kind of a cool deal. The Ludicrous show, so shout out to CNS Metalworks and Ludicrous Powder Coating out there. Ruben works for Chris. And when I'm talking to Ruben, the book, he'll often say, Ludicrous, the other Chris. And, you know, we'll mention that. So that as soon as I see this, I always think of that. The conversations with Ruben. We can see here a Severed Ties rearview mirror. For those scoring at home, Severed was the... Really, we kicked off the club jackets at our 10th anniversary. Nobody had really delved into club jackets in the mini truck scene, as well as we, from everything I remember, we were the first club to end up having custom club rear view mirrors. And we still got them out there today. And that's not to take away from anybody else because there's so many cool clubs out there. It's just kind of cool to see, you know, that stuff's been around for 20 plus years now. And now with so many people, you know, learning how to use CNCs and do all that stuff, it used to be kind of, you had to know somebody to get that stuff done. And now so many people are making parts and they've learned the trades, you know, whether they've taken schooling or someone showed them. It's pretty cool. Fakey 666. So this is a Mike Alexander feature from overseas. Very cool background, you know, something that you just wouldn't have had access to do, of course, like in the States. Got a model. When I was going through this issue, I did flip through this one briefly, looking for something. You could see there, this was kind of posted across the pages, so it was kind of hard to see the person's name, but I'm not going to attempt the owner's name because I'm bad with mispronunciation of some of those names. Rendering of the month, so you'll see here graphic disorder in the upper left, back when they were doing renderings. And you see here surface and then low 720, which I can't really make out who that is, but this is super clean. Now, I do dig this. I will say, ironically enough, in this issue, we see that you got a shaved corner. I do like the shaved corners. I think that's the way to pull it off on an S10. There you go. You got a Phantom like that, which is ironic because you look at the Astro Safari and it kind of has that big Phantom. So I think if I had to have shaved corners on a dime, it would be that way. Here's Summer Splash 06. This is old school. Event makes a comeback. And I think the closest we probably have to this in our scene now is maybe like Forbidden. Obviously, Forbidden's in Nevada. And I know some people miss, you know, some of these different river runs. But that's probably the closest that I can think of from a show coverage perspective. Here's a Tweakin'. Check out what Shady built. This was shot by John Jackson. Super low four-door or two-door Blazer, excuse me. And this is Travis Shady Shade. And you can see crazy stereo, a couple tanks, compressors. painted bezel and whatnot. Smooth rear end. Super clean. Remember, the reason why I started this is so that people can see all these issues. Many of you didn't have every issue. Okay, this brought back some memories, and this is what I was looking for. Joe Greaves shoots this truck, and I want to give a shout out to my buddy Matt Torgerson. I stayed at his house a couple years ago up in the Carolinas. He started Severed, Florida, and he was very good friends with this guy, and he did a ton, if not all the work on it. I know he didn't, I don't recall him painting it. Maybe he did. But this thing is super cool, and this thing was in Orlando. And if I remember correctly, Matt might chime in. I think this is the truck that ties into Do It, Then Do It Again. I believe this was the truck that got hit or tweaked. But I got to see this truck a good amount, and it was Scott's Lifestyle Car Club. That was Rob was in Lifestyle. Rest in peace to Rob Scepter, early Severed, Florida member. And you can see there the tweed for days. And this was cool. I actually found a video a couple years ago, and it was a day that we were meeting up to go to Spring Fling. And this truck was in Matt's shop. And it was kind of cool what he did with all this metalwork here. And we can see there's Scott Diemer? I always forget how to pronounce his name, but super cool. That was a good flashback for me. SummerSlam. So I want to give you a huge shout out to Craig Braden team up at Sittin' Pretty. You can see right here the good kinfolk. There's a rich history of car, or mini, I was gonna say car and truck clubs, but mini truck stuff going on up in the Pacific Northwest. We've covered a lot of that, and it's super cool to see so much awesomeness. Now, they're going to take a break, I think, this year. They're not going to have their show in 2025 August, but I'm sure they'll come back strong in 2026. But there's so many awesome Mazdas, so many awesome mini trucks up there. And it's a true testament. Now, rest in peace to Chad. This says, look for more on Chad's memorial truck in an upcoming issue. And this truck, believe it or not, was gifted to, there's Craig Braid right there, a young Craig Braid on the left. The family there gave it to Craig, if I remember correctly, in August 2024. And, Craig's just such a great guy, but he's going to be a great curator, and he's going to, as he has continued to carry on his friend's legacy. Rest in peace, Chad. Pounded. What a good name for this feature. I don't know why. It's Ground Pounded. This is super cool. Mike Alexander shoots it. It's not every day that you get one, maybe two models. When I first saw it looked like it was superimposed, but I do think it is the two ladies. Super low, super clean, super awesome Mazda. Love this layout too, by the way. Dropsicles, this is Paul Lacey up in Canada, Alberta. And you don't often get a feature layout like that. I mean, just totally sick. I'm assuming that's where it was shot and it wasn't, photo enhanced. Apologize, the dog is barking out there if you can hear that. He's a great dog, and my wife's out of town for today, so I'm dog sitting. End of Summer Bash, shout out to Phil Fowler. Phil, for those that don't know, at the time of this recording, has been going through some health things, and luckily he got checked out. One public service announcement that I'll tell you is, if you don't feel good for whatever reason, don't just assume nothing's wrong. Kind of the same thing we do with our vehicles. Something doesn't sound right, you pull over, you check it out, and that's what Phil did. And luckily he is, I think, going to be fine. We know he's going to be fine. But Phil was just such an instrumental guy with the whole End of Summer Bash, Low Rollers, good kinfolk, and realer than Real Deal Holyfield. Chump Change. Let me know if this is the truck that goes on to be the other, I think, right, there's another truck, Chump Change, Toyota. I get some of these Tacomas, like I said, the 4Runners and the Tacomas mixed up a little bit. Here you got Ernie writes it, John Jackson shoots it, but look, love the layout, right? You've got some nice artwork. We've seen just a great evolution of this magazine from 1988 all the way to where we're at now here in 2007. This feature is awesome too as well, because it's not just a couple of large photos. You've got some smaller photos in here, right? And I think the layout is just really, really nice. And that's a testament to where the magazine continued to go. Pretty cool here. You can see the Ben Frank Colorado custom steering wheel, that Alpine. I got the same one in my truck. Now my Mazda. Suicide doors. Always love seeing these little deals with the upholstery. And this is Brandon Perry at the time. Super cool. Like I was saying earlier, though, you know, one of the reasons why I did this is I wanted to make sure that people could see all of these pages for all of the issues. Mind of Macias, rest in peace. Who is this guy anyways? You got to see this. World's lowest mini trucker at 282 feet below sea level. For those that didn't know, Below Sea Level was a club in California. I guess maybe they're not around anymore. That name came up because when I was doing the short video about Bob Grant's Twisted Metal, they were coming back from the Below Sea Level show when he had that horrific accident where he went over a guardrail and into like a pond or a body of water. And, you know, thank God Bob was okay. But Twisted Metal was born out of that. Here you got graffiti. Moz Dogs for Life. Low Life Video. Nice chick. You got, I was talking to, I forget if it was Chad Lucas. Somebody and I were talking about who did the star thing first. That might have been Chad, where he talked about telling Ernie or someone threw up some diamonds. And then they said, hey, throw the... And that's how folks started doing the No Regrets star. That's going from memory, so if I have that incorrect, I apologize, but that's, I believe. And then there's Oliver, the OG. The OG Oliver. If you stay to the end, please post an emoji, like a dolphin emoji. Why not? To let me know that you made it to the end. Ron Perkins, irregular cab with the fixed back window. So with that being said, 123 pages for issue 183, Mini Truckin' Magazine, March 2007. I got to keep the pedal stomped. I got to get through the rest of these. We're less than 100. Thank you so much for watching. It helps this channel. Leave an emoji, a dolphin, or something to let me know. Comment any intel that you have. It's always appreciated. ODB, we at ya and we back. Peace.